Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, feeling well, and having yourselves a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. Got you a pretty detailed update this morning on what's going to happen weather-wise for today. Of course, towards the end of the video, we'll give you a pretty good update on the tropics and what we now have Tropical Depression 4, which is forecast to become Tropical Storm Cindy. It'll take our C name. We're going to give you an update on Tropical Storm Bret, which if it goes up five more miles per hour, it'll be Hurricane Bret. So we'll talk about that. Does it have a chance to do that today? We'll kind of discuss that a little bit. And then we'll give you a big update on the severe weather threat that we're watching for a lot of people for today. As of now, we just have a level 2 out of 5 risk at the highest level for areas of the high plains. But remember, I'm making this video as of 6:45 Eastern time. We typically have an update that could upgrade here in the next 2 hours from the Storm Prediction Center. So this might change. That happened yesterday morning where we went from a slight risk to a bimodal enhanced risk, which is a level 3 out of 5. And guys, it's certainly verified. And we always hope these do not verify, but we had twin tornadoes in Colorado, very photogenic tornadoes, but there was nothing photogenic about the ones that hit Texas yesterday evening. We're a town called, I think, Matador, Texas, a very small town. Population only, I believe, 571 from the last population survey that was done in 2021, but they were hit. There were confirmed fatalities, and the damage looked catastrophic. And some of the videos and photos that I saw. So thoughts and prayers are going out to them. We need to pray for these folks. Very small town, probably a tight-knit community. We're certainly thinking about you folks for the foreseeable future. But we're going to keep you guys aware of any kind of other tornado threat today. It seems like these low-risk tornado days ended up verifying higher than the more higher risk tornado days. So we need to take each risk serious, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to discuss it. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do that and so others can do it too. Let's take a look at what's going on per water vapor loop. There is a spin. We still got this upper level low spinning right here. It's just spinning away. And what we will watch today is eventually this will begin to finally move up into the northeast. This will bring the northeast some beneficial rain. Not as much rain as the southeast has seen, but it'll bring you guys rain. There's a little bit of dry air wrapping around this. And there is a boundary setting up kind of right into here, give or take some space between that line. Very, very moist air will build into this region today. And on the other side of this line, on this side, closer to the low, it'll be moist, dew points in the 60s, but not as moist as like the eastern Carolinas and Georgia, up in the southeast, Virginia, all the way up into the Delmarva area. Dew points will get well into the 70s. We'll watch to see as this morning convection that is falling right now will move on out, and we'll watch to see if the atmosphere does become unstable again, which I do expect it to. It's just what kind of severe weather threat happens. We got big time storms ongoing still. Some of these are severe warned. The last time I checked about 30 minutes ago, but you see this big plume of white. And then we'll watch again for more severe storms into this region today. I'm drawing better circles this morning, so that's a good start. There is a higher tornado risk down here into this region today. So I really think we're going to have some supercells down to here. Another storyline that I saw was, I believe it was around the Denver area. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were holding a concert and a big hailstorm hit and people were injured from the hail. It's just, it goes back to this. I know I say it, and I don't want to get on my soapbox or anything like that. I'll say it until the cows come home, guys. Do not wait to take the weather serious until it gets serious. And I know most of the folks that are probably tuning in right now are not those kind of folks, because you're actually more concerned enough about the weather to tune in to somebody talking about it on YouTube. But man, there's so many people out there that just do not choose to take the weather serious until it's too late. So please, please take it serious. Respect the weather, because it'll unfortunately earn its respect in the worst way possible. So you see this area of storms blasting through eastern areas of Colorado. It is severe warned as of, between now. You got a severe thunderstorm warning between now and 7:15 Eastern time. So of course this will expire by the time this video drops. But you still got this spin. And you can see the spin somewhat on this little small loop of time here. So you got a lot of moisture moving into the Carolinas. We'll watch to see if this moisture moves on out and the atmosphere behind it recovers, bringing that severe weather threat across the eastern Carolinas. And we'll talk about the severe weather threat. As of now, per the morning update, you have a marginal risk expanding all the way to just north of Miami, all the way up into northeast areas of North Carolina. I'll be honest, this has not changed one bit since yesterday evening's video. The only thing that's changed is this, and we talked about this was likely going to happen. The marginal risk has been extended all the way down to Houston, Texas. This was a general risk yesterday evening, but you have a marginal risk. And typically you don't see a 2% risk of a tornado in the marginal risk, but here you go. There is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in this green area in the eastern Carolinas, eastern and southeastern Georgia. We need to watch out for a brief spin up. Really, the low top supercells are possible as we get into this afternoon and this evening, which is more typical of a real tropical air mass. 2% risk. This does include Cheyenne, down the Front Range into Denver, Colorado Springs, all the way down into northeast New Mexico. There's a 5% risk right here. I really think we're going to get a couple more tornadoes in this area today, maybe even more so north into Colorado. The wind threat, though, we need to watch to see if these supercells develop more into a bowing line of storms along the western, kind of the northwest panhandle of Texas and then northeast sections of New Mexico. So not only do you have the 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher, remember that's 55 to 60 miles per hour and mile per hour reading, you also have a significant chance of winds, which means you also in the black outline region have a 10% risk of winds exceeding 65 knots or higher, which is about hurricane force winds or higher, which is around 74, 75 mile per hour winds or higher. Hail threat, basically you might as well say the entire slight risk has not only the usual 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, you also have that 10% risk of larger hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. Please take this serious today. Watch out outdoor activities. Respect the weather, because, man, you don't want to get trapped out here. Not only a tornado, obviously, but a significant hailstorm. That's why it's so important. Don't look at your hourly forecast, guys. I mean, even the local channels do it, right? And it's a smart thing to do, but don't get tunnel visioned on it. It's always smart to have a radar on your phone. Radar scope, Radar Omega. My radar is free, but I'm telling you, Radar Omega and Radar Scope is worth the small amount of change that you can find probably laying around your house to spend a year for this app. I mean, it literally could save your life. So it's just my recommendation. Trust me, I don't promote this. I don't get any money off of promoting these two radar apps. But I'm just genuinely trying to look out for you guys. It's important to have a radar on your phone. But we got two areas to watch for a slight risk. I always mention that. That's at least a 15% risk in the yellow areas to see flash flood guidance being met. Expecting a lot of rain. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a moderate risk issued somewhere here in North Florida, the Big Bend areas of Florida. Some areas, these areas have already got a lot of rain, right? They could get 3 to 5 inches of rain in this area of Florida today, North Florida. Man, that flooding could become a concern in these regions, but a slight risk extends all the way into southern Virginia. Then in the high plains and central plains, you do have a risk of flooding. Watches and warnings. The heat is going to get beat down a little bit today. As you can tell, Texas is not going to be quite roasting alive today. Excessive heat warnings have been shunted down to the southern portion of the state. Even the heat advisories, don't even reach as far north as the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot today, just not comparable to the last few days whatsoever. You got flood watches that remain in here in North Texas, all the way through central Georgia, northeast Georgia. Basically, the central and western half of South Carolina, and same kind of deal in North Carolina. Flood watches up from Montana to eastern Colorado and about 6 counties in western Kansas. Let's talk about the southeast. We're dealing with rain this morning. The big storyline is, how fast does all this shower, convection, storm activity move northeast out of South Carolina, out of North Carolina? We'll stop here. It's around 2, 3 o'clock. You got numerous rounds of showers and storms making its way, especially through northern Florida. And then we'll watch this. Does this destabilize? And do you get these kind of low top mini supercells that begin to develop in eastern areas of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina? So let's zoom into these regions. Talk about Florida first. Start off this morning, round after round. Focus on this time frame right here. If you look right here, 1 p.m. Eastern. This is Eastern time. 1 p.m. 5 p.m. Look how much heavy rain and storm activity is falling over North Florida. Now, it's going to be down here in central and southern Florida too, but I really think there's just going to be an onslaught of just tropical downpours, dumping inches of rain into this region today. You move a little bit further north, okay, and there is a severe weather threat down in the Florida too. Most of Florida has a marginal risk, but you can move a little bit further north, better kinematics, so you got to watch these cells in southern areas of Georgia. But man, a lot of rain. We take it all the way to 9 p.m., all the way to midnight, all the way to the overnight hours, and we're waking up tomorrow morning. We're still dealing with rain. So, I mean, it's going to be impossible to figure out exactly where it is. But what I can tell you here is the National Weather Service really likes this area of Florida right in here, kind of the northern areas of the Big Bend region that kind of eventually goes into the Panhandle, kind of the armpit of Florida, if you will. It's going for almost 6 inches of rain in certain areas of the next 24 hours. A lot of rain can fall. Take this serious today. Flooding risk. There's already a flash flood warning right now in Florida in this area. All right, so you move a little bit further north and northeast. Rounds of showers and storms throughout the morning hours. These could be intense in eastern North Carolina later this morning until about midday. These could re-intensify as they make their way into southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. So expect like an area of storms that works in from the southwest to the northeast that kind of blasts through the Norfolk area, northeast North Carolina, and could affect you guys. But really, it's what happens after this main convection. I can tell you, up here in West Virginia, Western Virginia, you guys are just going to get a steady, light, moderate, at times heavy rain today. But it's really this area down here. You see these little cells? These could produce quick spin-ups. Low-lying clouds, tropical type air mass. These are typically ones that you barely can see. There's a lot of trees, obviously, here in the southeast. You're just going to see there's going to be a lot of storms today where there's going to be ominous looking lowering of the clouds. I can tell you, I can almost guarantee you that here in southeast Georgia, eastern Carolina today. So watch out. Watch out east of Columbia, in and around Columbia area, points east, Orangeburg, Charleston, Savannah, Myrtle Beach, up to Wilmington, eastern sections of North Carolina. Watch out for these little cells that are going to get going about early afternoon, last throughout the afternoon to the evening hours. And then even as we get into the late evening hours, you could get a little bit of a flooding risk as these storms are moving over the same area. Expecting another stormy night here in my neck of the woods in Columbia. So we'll see what happens. But rainfall over the next 24 hours, I mean, Georgia, a couple inches of rain is possible. You could have isolated areas that get 2 to 3 inches of rain in South Carolina, North Carolina, and more of just a consolidated area of rain here in Virginia, where you'll just get a steady building up of rain all throughout the day today. The northeast, you'll notice moist air and just a moist return begins to build throughout the day. You could be dealing with some storm activity. You could have some storms that make its way onto the southern shore of Long Island. A little bit later today, some shower, heavy rain activity could make its way into far southern sections of southern New England. We'll see. Rain will fall in West Virginia today. This rain will eventually make its way into the northern portions, the northern panhandle regions of West Virginia, even make its way all the way into southeast Ohio as we get into the late afternoon, evening hours. Could have a rainy evening for Pittsburgh, getting all the way up to the southern PA regions. And like I said, some showers could make its way all the way into southern areas of New England today. And then some downpours into the Washington, D.C., Baltimore region where, you can get some building of the atmosphere all the way up into northern Virginia as we get into the late evening hours, where you'll get more so some storm action. But here comes the low pressure, ejecting finally this upper level low is detaching itself from being lost basically in the southeast over the last few days. And the forecast has actually been pretty well. We thought that this would begin as early as this past Sunday and last throughout the work week, and finally would move on out of here at the early part of this coming weekend, and it's doing so. So for an upper level low, which are notoriously hard to forecast, we're figuring it out pretty well here. But scattered downpours throughout the early morning hours in the Delmarva into southeast PA, New Jersey, and you could be waking up to some downpours in and around the New York City area. Rain could be falling tomorrow morning in Cleveland, Toledo, Columbus, Dayton, all the way up into the southern tier of New York State. So, the south central U.S., it's either intense heat or intense storms. There's hardly nothing in between right now for you folks, but well, getting to this afternoon, you could be already dealing with some storm activity in southeast Colorado late this morning, about midday. This is the time frame right here. Back it up 1 hour in Central Time. And then as we make our way into this afternoon, this is when we watch these isolated supercells that get going here, northeast areas of New Mexico, southeast sections of Colorado. These could be slow moving, and I'm telling you, these are probably going to produce a tornado today. I'm not going to guarantee it, but this is a ripe setup for an isolated tornado, potentially a slow moving tornado like we saw in Colorado yesterday. And we could expect some very photogenic supercells, but like I said, you just never know when it's going to hit one of these small towns. That happened last night in Texas. It's all cool, it's all beautiful until it rolls up into a very small, tight-knit community and then changes people's lives forever. So that's what we hope for. We pray and hope that these do not affect these smaller towns and these lower populated areas and the high plains, but you just never know. And then you take it into this evening, you still got these little mini supercells, and we'll go on and zoom into this region, Colorado right here, and then you got northern New Mexico showing up here, the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, very small section. You keep this rolling here. You get into this afternoon, here they are. They're popping up here. You even got some storms in the northern sections of Colorado up here, but these storms down here could be intense, and especially in northeast New Mexico where you have that 5% risk of a tornado. So please take these serious down here in any communities in northeast New Mexico. These storms right down here, and you look at, let's see, let's go on and gonna do this on the fly here. You look at the updraft helicity swath of this region, and it's really picking up on this on really one or two big time cells here in northeast New Mexico late this evening that will have a spin to them, and I really think you're going to get a tornado in northeast New Mexico, maybe even southeast Colorado later this afternoon, this evening. So be aware if you're a small town up here in these regions that I'm mentioning. I know I probably don't have a lot of viewers from out in this region, but please take this serious today. Keep your eye on the sky. Look at the radar. Definitely stay aware. The north central U.S., including the Midwest, upper Midwest, Great Lakes region, you're still going to remain pretty dry in the areas that need rain, like Illinois, surrounding regions. You get into this afternoon, you could get some amplification of some storms in areas of Minnesota, western Minnesota, eastern areas of the Dakotas. You could have some storms that grow more upscale as you get into the late evening hours. So the northern half of Minnesota, certain areas of Minnesota could certainly get some intense storms. All the way down into Nebraska, you could get some storm action here in north central Nebraska. This will eventually make its way east and then round that ridge and start making its way from more of a west to east pool to more of a northwest to southeast directional flow out here. And then we'll watch the storms that get going in like Wyoming, and as they make their way into the western sections of the Plains states, and we can talk about that now. We make our way through the morning, and then bang, these storms get going. Watch out Cheyenne, watch out southeast and in eastern areas of Wyoming. Some intense storms can get going. Western sections of South Dakota. These storms could be intense, very photogenic, but dangerous. Like I said, if it just happens to impact one of these smaller towns and communities out here. But these storms will take on probably a supercell in nature structure, and then I think they'll grow up scale, and then you watch for a damaging wind threat, large hail threat. I can tell you the severe risk really cuts off up here. So I could see this getting extended further north into the Dakotas, northeast Wyoming, but we'll see what happens with it as we try to find the panel. Here we go. So, but these storms can be quite intense. You know, we get into the late night hours around midnight. If you're in western sections of South Dakota and then western sections of Nebraska, watch out for some intense storms overnight. And then these make their way throughout the overnight hours into the morning. Could be waking up to some heavy rain, storm activities in the central Dakotas. Rainfall from this, a lot of rain could fall here in northeast Colorado today, but just kind of scattered about across the northern plains. Certain areas could see an inch, certain areas maybe just a quarter inch. Certain areas might not get a whole lot of rain at all, but it's really like in this entire area to see measurable rain over the next 24 hours for sure. Rockies pretty quiet today. Take advantage of a quiet day if you just happen to not get much storm action in Montana, Wyoming, because I really think, you know, we done talked about this. I really think as we get, and you could get some storm shower activity in western areas of Washington State, but as we are waking up tomorrow morning and getting into Friday, and we'll discuss this tonight, this is when we can have some vigorous storm development in Montana, Wyoming. Look at these supercells here forming in southern and southwest sections of South Dakota. These could be very intense. These are the ones that could produce some of those structures that you see in textbooks of these supercells. This is what storm chasers' dreams are made of, and I hate to correlate dreams with damage from these cells. That's always why I hope that they miss these small towns. But let's hope they do. But I'm expecting some pretty, I know I'm getting into Friday now, but I'm expecting some pretty intense weather into this region today. I'm sorry, tomorrow. And in fact, I'll kind of just go on and talk about it very briefly as the Storm Prediction Center. A very large slight risk, but I can almost guarantee you, you're probably going to get an enhanced risk somewhere into this region tomorrow. You most likely are. I could see it, but we'll see what happens. You definitely need more confidence and probably a higher in tornado threat, but I can also tell you there's going to be a severe weather risk for Saturday and Sunday also. In fact, you look at Sunday, I'm getting way ahead of myself. There's going to be a severe weather risk for the Ohio Valley, areas of the Mississippi Valley too, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But just go on and prepare if you're in the northern plains tomorrow, because you're going to get some intense weather. We'll see how it develops. We'll keep you guys ahead of that. But temperatures today, you're still cooler in the eastern U.S. because of this upper level low. This is keeping your temperatures cool. If you're not being influenced by clouds, rain, things like that, you warm well into the 80s, 90s. As you can tell, it's doable here in Texas this afternoon compared to what you've dealt with. But it's still a scorcher, very hot. Highs only in the 90s instead of the deep into the 100s. But you're still dealing with the higher temperatures here, obviously, in southwest Texas like you typically deal with this time of the year. But the middle of the country right in here, the Mississippi Valley, the Midwest, the upper Midwest, pretty warm and pretty dry for the most part, 80s and 90s. We take a look at the western U.S., still below average, but you're warming up pretty good now, pretty comfortable temperatures. You're still below average, but it's feeling nice out here at this point. Enjoy these cooler temperatures that you're experiencing. Let's give you an update on the tropics. So Bret is a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure this morning at 996 millibar low pressure. This thing is getting close to hurricane status. It doesn't really look like it would be a hurricane, but it's getting close. We now have newly formed Tropical Depression 4. It's our fourth depression of the year. It is forecast to be our third named storm, which is Cindy. So that is our C name. So we're moving right on through the alphabet, but keep in mind, a lot of people are just making grand assumptions that now we are going to have this massively busy hurricane season. I could see us not having another named storm between after we get through Cindy, which is forecast to happen, all the way through July. Okay, all the way to August. July is notorious for not having much tropical development, which is good. But this is 1,007 millibar low pressure, just a depression. But this is forecast to be a storm. We look at the latest forecast for Bret. Like I said, last night, most of the weather, the worst weather is on the northern and eastern side of this storm. We'll talk about that here in a second. But you now have tropical storm warnings up into the northern, more further northern Lesser Antilles Islands out here in the eastern Caribbean. You even got hurricane watches now. So their guard is up. It's because this is a high-end tropical storm. It's a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. It goes up another 5 miles per hour it'll be considered a hurricane. It would not go up like 3 or 4 miles per hour. It goes up in 5 mile per hour increments or higher when it comes to these upgrades. But it's moving west at 15 miles per hour, pretty decent clip, and it's just moving right along. Tropical Depression 4, this is the latest cone of uncertainty. It now has a cone of uncertainty. And you certainly want to watch Bermuda with this. I don't expect this to strengthen, but I could see Bermuda getting impacts from this maybe sometime next week, just some showers and rain, but we'll see what happens. Don't want to get too far ahead. But this is forecast to become a tropical storm as early as later today. It'll be Tropical Storm Cindy, C-I-N-D-Y, which would be its name. It's forecast to remain a tropical storm all the way through the weekend, all the way through early next week. But this is forecast to turn. And we'll probably discuss on why it's going to turn. We already have. We always knew it's going to turn. It's basically going to get picked up by currents from an upper level trough that's going to dig down and really yank on this and pull it north of the Caribbean islands. We take a look at Zoom Earth, which I love this site. This is free. This is like a combination between Google Maps and then the site from the National Hurricane Center. It's like a perfect combination of both. But you see both systems on this. Obviously, the more strong tropical storm Bret, and then the smaller tropical depression 4 over here, which will be Cindy. All right, so if we look at these little things, still forecast to remain a 70 mile per hour storm through 2 p.m. through the overnight hours, and then it'll forecast to weaken as it begins to make its track into the Caribbean. But if we zone into these areas, and of course we'll look at the cone of uncertainty for Tropical Depression 4 too, and it's saying that this could get as strong as a 60 mile per hour storm. So we'll see what happens. Let's move this out the way, zoom into these regions right into here, move this back, and this is the outer bands of Tropical Storm Bret right into here. Okay, but if you look in close, it's St. Lucia. Okay, I was saying St. Lucia. Somebody corrected me in the comments, so I really appreciate that. I don't take any offense to that. You guys know that I'm not great at all at pronouncing things. So, correct me all you want. Is obviously, I don't appreciate it when it's presented rudely, which most people do not. But certainly correct me if I'm wrong in pronouncing something, because I struggle with it. But Martinique, you guys have a tropical storm warning, but they're expecting the worst to be potentially on St. Lucia. So I could see hurricane watches. If you look at the pink here, the pink is hurricane watches combined with the tropical storm warning. So they know tropical storm warnings are tropical storm force conditions are going to happen, which is winds, over 40 to 45 miles per hour. But because this is such a strong tropical storm now, they got hurricane watches issued, which is not uncommon at all. It typically happens with a stronger tropical storm, but Guadeloupe up here, Dominica up here, you guys are going to get some intense conditions too, especially being that the worst conditions are on the northern side. So if the center of circulation went right over St. Lucia, that means you guys would get lashed by the northern part of the storm. So just tropical storm watches remain down here on the southern areas of the Lesser Antilles, and then Barbados. You guys still just have a tropical storm watch. But if you look at the satellite of what's going on out here, it had a nice explosion of convection earlier this morning, but that since has tampered down. But we'll see what it does throughout the morning hours. You can already see maybe some more convection bubbling up here. So we'll see how this behaves over the next 24 hours. Does it clip hurricane status? It could. So, if this is Hurricane Bret by the time some of you folks are watching this, I wouldn't be surprised. But this is Tropical Depression 4. Obviously much weaker looking, more compact looking. But we'll see what happens with this. It's being affected by some shear, as we expected, so it's not able to take advantage of the extremely warm sea surface temperatures out here because it's dealing with some westerly shear. This shear is going to do nothing but increase, especially as it gets into what we call the graveyard of the Eastern Caribbean. But you look at the wind field, we'll just look at the GFS, start off this morning, get into this afternoon, you get into this evening. Here comes this very compact wind field. Right into here, these are winds in this orange area, about over 50 to 55 knots or higher. That's, around 60, 65, 75, potentially 75, I would say 70-ish mile per hour winds. But you're going to get some hurricane force wind gusts probably that moves into St. Lucia, Martinique. You guys are definitely probably going to get some brief hurricane force winds, which is 75 miles per hour or higher. But this, I would say the worst conditions moves in later this PM, later this evening. So please hunker down, be prepared. One of my buddies that comments on there, he told me that, you know, they have regulations for the buildings out here on how they're built to handle these tropical conditions. So I know you guys can handle it, but this will move through fast, but it's going to move through probably after the sun goes down. So, you know, you're not going to be able to see much, but just hunker down out here and be prepared, and then this moves into the Eastern Caribbean. But expect a time where tropical storm force winds could hit you guys in the Lesser Antilles probably sometime this afternoon, this evening, okay, after 2 p.m. So stay prepared, stay aware out there. God bless all y'all, and I'll probably talk to you guys this evening. God bless all y'all.